Hey everyone, welcome back. So we've been hearing a lot of reports from the US lately saying that the snowbird season is going to be just fine, that Canadians will cave once the cold weather hits, and that we just won't be able to resist the warm weather in the US. Well, today I wanted to share a discussion I had with a Canadian snowbird, someone who's gone to Arizona for the past 12 years, and he saw the writing on the wall, decided to pack up and leave for good. So you're going to hear firsthand from a Canadian snowbird his reasonings for leaving and the economic impact he had on the state of Arizona over the years. Today's backdrop comes from my mom. It's a photo from her Eastern Canada trip that they did in late September. Yeah, I think it was September. I'll definitely have more photos to share from her in the future. Thanks again, Mom, for sending these over. All right, let's get started with the interview with one of our Canadian snowbird viewers, and I'll be referring to him as D. All right, so thank you very much for meeting me. I'll refer to you as D. And you sent me an email, which I was actually really intrigued on because I've been doing a lot of snowbird videos lately, and obviously it's snowbird season. And your email that you sent to me aligns with the fact that a lot of snowbirds aren't going down. So before we start, can you give me a basic introduction of yourself and where you're from, what your background is?
Yeah, I'm retired. I'm from Toronto, and I started going to Arizona in 2013. For started out for short periods of time, and then it got longer, and I was renting. And after a while, I met some friends down there, and they talked me into buying because it's nice to walk into your place and the bed's made and the sheets are on the bed and your clothes are there and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was very lucky to be able to do that. That's a real privilege to be able in retirement to be able to have the means and the resources. I'm not a wealthy guy by any means, but I'm pretty lucky that I could do something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much how it happened, and then I just ended up there, and it's a long drive to Arizona from Toronto. It's four long days, really, with one really long day, like a 14-hour day, 15-hour day in there, or 5 days. It's not quite as bad. I started flying down. I would travel down with my cats in the car, and it was like 5 days in the car for them and me. And I would get there and I'd be too tired when I
Yeah, that's a
got
long
there.
drive. I mean, I guess it's easier the purpose for driving would be to have your vehicle there
That's
while
it.
you're. So you mentioned you've been going to Arizona since 2013, and
Mhm.
and you bought a place there.
Mhm.
When was that moment that you kind of felt that something was off? And was it before Trump's first term, or was it after, or when did it start feeling off for you in the U.S.?
Well, curiously enough, it was when I was driving home in 2015 before the election, and there was that debate that he did with Hillary Clinton, and it was on CNN radio, and I was listening to it, and I was driving home with a buddy, and we were just rolling our eyes. We couldn't believe what we were hearing, and that's when the coin first dropped for me, and then I kept tabs on it after that, and then when he won the election, I actually had a reservation that I canceled because
Mhm.
I was too concerned that there was going to be trouble and violence. I think I was just a bit ahead of the curve on that one. That didn't happen,
Yeah.
but I thought that for sure, and I still think that there's a good chance that there's going to be some civil unrest there. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how it started.
You did mention in your email that there was a lot of I guess when COVID started within the area that you were staying, there was a lot of, I guess, COVID denial, mask harassment, and things like that. Did that start to escalate when you were down there?
No, I never saw it escalate directly. I was not part of
Mhm.
uh, that escalation, but it. I know that where we are snowbirds, and for the most part, I mean, I'm sure there are a left leaning and right leaning people down there, and that's the thing that's a conversation you never have
Right.
with an American citizen is anything about that.
Right.
And I had really good friends, and I didn't want to jeopardize my relationship with them. I That conversation never ever came up, and I never saw, and they never acted in that way. I just heard about it. Again, it was what we were getting fed during COVID by the mainstream media.
Hmm. So sounds like earlier, I mean, you did a lot of cross travel into Arizona or into the US, whether it was by land or even air. You did mention offline that there was a few incidents that you had with CBP and law enforcement. And,
Mhm.
even yourself, you have a Nexus card, right? So what were kind of some of the incidents that may have happened to you over the years since 2013?
The most interesting one is to do with they have a U.S. border protection, which is I think just a subdivision of Homeland Security and CBP.
Yeah.
They have these Quonset huts that are in the middle of the desert, like a stop, a permanent stop set up over the interstates. So you pull in there, and there's guys in there and agents in there, and they talk to you, and they're basically profiling if you're Latino or not. And these Quonset huts are down near the Mexican border, so they're basically protecting the main interstates that get you out of southern Arizona. There's a really large one, two-back on I-19, which goes from Nogales to Tucson, and it's really, really big place with heavy truck traffic and stuff. And I was told that you go through there, you line up, and you go through, and they most of the time they just wave you through. If you're not Latino,
Hmm.
they just wave you through, and that was always the case.
Right.
And then one year at Christmas time, I got in the car Christmas morning. I got in the car and I drove out west along one of these roads that would be an access road for people coming into the country. It's a main east west highway. It's not an interstate, but it's a main highway. And there was a guard station there, and I saw it and I thought, oh, geez, okay, fine. And I was just went out for a drive and went out the national monuments, Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, and nosed around there and Christmas morning. And then I came back, and I knew I was going to be stopped by this guy. They didn't stop me on the way through; they stopped me on the way back. I'm driving a rental car, and he says, a U.S. citizen?" And I said, "No, actually, I'm Canadian." He goes,
Hmm.
"Can I see your passport, please?"
Yeah.
And I was told that you never needed your passport at these checkpoints internally. And nobody is. I was never asked at Tubac for a passport ever, ever.
Yeah.
But this guy asked for my passport. I said, "Well, geez, I don't have one.
Mm.
I have my Ontario driver's license. I have my Ontario health card. And I have some ID, but I don't have my passport."
Yeah.
And he's kind of made a fuss, and he took it and he shook his head, and he handed my ID back to me, and he said, "Next time you pass through this checkpoint, you have your passport with you, or you're going to have a really long day."
Mm.
And this was in 2015.
Mhm.
This is a long time ago. And here these guys were even they're bugging people who are legally in the country through their own devices and their own immigration system, and they're asking for passports.
Yeah.
And I know you've said, and I've heard other people, that there are people who carry ID cards and passports around with them all the time, U.S. citizens,
Yeah.
because this is what can happen down there.
Mhm. You mentioned this was back in 2015, so
That's right, long
it's
time ago.
even before Trump was in for his first term. So
Correct.
right
Hmm.
now, it's definitely even worse. Where like if I ever had to go to the U.S., I would be carrying my passport, all of my IDs on me at all times. But
Oh yeah.
it's just more of the fact that I'm mind boggled that it's gotten to that point where everybody, including even U.S. citizens, have to start carrying their IDs everywhere they go now. So
Yeah, and I don't know if I saw it on your show or I just saw it. If you could go across the U.S. border, you make sure you got a Canadian consulate phone number on a piece of paper in your pocket,
yeah, for
not
sure.
just on your phone. Because if you get detained and you need to make a call, you still have that phone number. I think it was actually no, it wasn't you. It was somebody who worked for external. They don't call it external affairs anymore, foreign affairs, and they work for foreign affairs, and they said you be certain that you have some way to contact the Canadian embassy.
Yeah,
Do not travel without that information on your person,
yeah, it's
and
definitely good
not
to
and
have
not on
the
your phone.
definitely good to have the contact information of the
Yep,
consulate.
yep.
And
And they were emphatic about that.
you mentioned also as well in your email that you've already prepared your escape plan from Arizona, and
Hmm.
you believe that there is possibly going to be civil unrest, or things are just not going to get better.
Hmm.
What was that moment that you knew that, hey, I'm done and I'm going to pack up and leave?
It was last year when we were in Spain. We went to Spain last year because that's something that I've always wanted to do.
Hmm.
And it's kind of hard to do when you're already paying for a place to go to, like we had down there. But anyway, we just decided to bite the bullet and pay again to go to a different place. And we were in Spain, and the whole stuff hit there in February about tariffs and 51st state, and that was kind of it right then and there. I had thoughts before that when the government, Trump administration showed up, got power. I had these thoughts that these guys are pretty sinister. I bought and sold down there, and there are very different rules about foreign nationals owning property down there, and it's not doesn't work at all like it does here. Some of them don't make any sense to us, but I mean, hey, it's their country and they run it like that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they can do, and they tax capital gains when you sell. I knew I was going to pay capital gains tax on a place that I had sold. Sure enough, I did. And it wasn't that horrible, but it got me to thinking there's nothing stopping these guys from changing the way they tax foreign nationals on real property.
Right.
So, you're paying it was really not very much money, the capital gains tax. I can't even remember what it was. It was 1 or 2%. It was really, really small. It was way less than Canada. That's for sure. Just thought, there's nothing. I was in Spain. There's a buddy of mine. He was an accountant from Toronto,
Mhm.
and he said, I was thinking, these guys could just willy nilly just change the rules about foreign nationals. They need money. They don't have. They're in trouble with the way the money is going in the government in the United States, and
Mhm.
they're going to take any chance to increase that revenue. And if they can get some political capital out of it, they're going to do that too.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any reason that they would not increase taxes on sales of foreign nationals' property to 50%, 75, 100%. What's
Yeah.
what's going to stop them? They
Yeah.
could make Trump could do that tomorrow in an executive order.
Yeah.
All that has to happen is for one of his goons to realize this, Stephen Miller, to figure this out, and away we go. It's game on.
Yeah.
And then so the property that I had at the time, if I was going to be taxed, at 75%. I'm not talking 75% on gains. I'm talking 75% on sale.
Mhm.
So you'd lose all your money. And I thought,
Yeah.
no, I'm getting out of here. This is enough.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point, because obviously, like, every day that comes up, or every day that goes by, there's some sort of executive order. There's something else that goes on that has just been drastically changed. Like, I'm going to be creating a video on a proposal that they want to end dual citizenship.
Mhm.
You brought up a really good point, because I think it's very unpredictable if there are snowbirds that are thinking of selling who may just be kind of dragging it along. You just don't know if your taxes is going to be higher the next week, right?
Mhm.
So I think you did a smart choice just by getting out, and things are before, I guess, maybe shit hits the fan when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was early on the draw. My buddy was trying to get me to hang on. He says, things are going to get bad. He says for sure. He says, but if you just hang on, they'll dig themselves into a hole, and then it'll be clearer and clearer. And I thought, no, no. And,
Yeah, I don't know
and
about
then he
that.
said, one day you're going to wake up and you realize that you're a genius.
Maybe because I'm in the tech industry, I'm always thinking about like possible like scenarios that might go bad and stuff like that. But yeah,
Mm,
it would just be something I don't want to risk until the last minute, or if it happens, then I don't want to be freaking out trying to figure out what I'm going to do, right? So,
no, no.
but one other thing as well. I mean, you did mention you have some friends and colleagues down there. Like, what's the sentiment within your snowbird community? Are they following the same path as you? Getting out of the U.S., or are they still going to stick it through and see what happens?
No, we had some wonderful friends from Canada there. Most of them are from the West, Alberta, because the drive is shorter, straight. They're
Yeah.
just straight shot south from Alberta to Arizona. It's still a long way because they're so far north. It's still a good 3 days, but no, they're it's not on their radar screen, and I don't know why. I mean, these are smart people, good people, really, passionate Canadians, but that's not their thing. They're not really worried about it. like you always say, you can't make their minds up for them, each to their own. And I hope they're making the right choice. But for me, it was time. Boy, get out
Yeah.
now.
No, I mean, your story, I mean, I do get a lot of emails from snowbirds as well, just telling me that, hey, we've sold our place and we're done as well. Even a lot of people in Florida as well, they've messaged me saying that, my mom has sold their place, or, we've decided that we're going to sell and we're going to buy another place somewhere else, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, like I said before, I mean, if people want to stay, that's up to them. And what I think though is that I think the U.S. media is really downplaying the actual effect of the snowbirds leaving, right? Because I did a report on I don't know what it is. I think it was an Arizona snowbird organization somehow, right, or some in some manner. But the CEO of I really didn't like how he was trying to say that the Canadian snowbirds, once it gets cold in Canada, they'll cave and they'll go back to Arizona. And
as for surveys which show Canadians protesting a trip to the U.S., Williams believes once the weather really starts to turn,
they'll make a statement for a while, and then they'll get in the middle of winter and then quietly get on a plane and go down the next day.
For me, with all the feedback that I'm getting, I mean, I feel that wasn't a good representation of what's actually happening, right? So, and with your story and your scenario and situation right now, it proves that, hey, not all Canadians are actually going back. So,
I mean, I heard that guy. I saw that interview that you
yeah,
did with that.
what's your thoughts on that? I mean, he's talking directly to you, right? So,
Yeah, well, see, I've heard that before, and I heard it when I was trying to sell my house,
Mhm.
and it was to do with or rent if I was trying to rent the unit like last year, and the realtors all say, what happens? Very common apparently
Yeah.
that things are going along. There's people who rent way in advance, and it's hard to find a place, and then there's a whole bunch of time where in November and then even in December where there's places available. And then a big snowstorm hits somewhere in Canada, and then all the rental places start to disappear.
Yeah.
So there is, I think there is some evidence that does happen, that when the weather changes, that the snowbirds start looking to rent. That's old information.
Yep.
That's not the way it's going to work now. And to me, that equates exactly to the people keep on talking, oh, the midterms are going to be the midterms, the Republicans are going to be destroyed in the midterms. There's not going to be any midterms. Who are you kidding? The rules aren't the same anymore. I mean, that might be a bit of an overstatement, but the rules are different. And the reason, in my opinion, is, if the Democrats come to power in the House and in the Senate, the first thing they're going to do is impeach people. And they can't allow that to happen. So I don't think there's any chance there's going to be a free and fair election at the midterms. But that's just my own thing. If I was a guy who liked to place bets in Vegas, I'd go and I'd bet some money on that one.
Yeah. You brought up a good point, because it sounds like you and I are aligned in terms of how the U.S. media and even like the businesses, travel industry experts, they've always said that, oh, we've gone through this before, and we'll ride it through. Everything will get back to normal, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I feel that 2025 is a completely different scenario that has never been experienced in the past before, right? Because we've
Agreed.
never had a scenario in the past where the boycott is led by the citizens and not mandated by the government. It's just a lot of Canadians and even international travelers that are just pissed off and they don't want to go, right? So
Mhm.
I feel a lot of these tourism experts who feel that, yeah, we'll ride this through, everything will get back to normal. It's different in 2025, right? I mean,
There's no questions. It's
yeah,
totally different.
yeah.
Totally
Like
different. Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to the US a lot. I mean, I went to Vegas quite a bit. I went to California quite a bit, and even Hawaii. Those were my three areas I used to go to frequently. But for me, my mentality and even my feeling right now is that I don't want to go, right? And
No.
it's sad because like I've said on my channel, I got family and friends in the US. I actually got quite a few friends in Hawaii, which I really want to go back to and visit them,
Mm.
but I just can't do it. It would go against my values, right? So I'm not alone on this.
No.
And for the tourism experts just to say, you guys will be back, you'll
Mhm.
you'll cave. It is a bit of an insult, right? Because I mean, they're kind of undermining what our values are just to say that, oh, you guys will be back, and that kind of pisses me off. So
It's a lack of awareness, and what they assume what's normal, what's been happening is normal and will happen again. This is
exactly.
forever changed. This is
Yep.
not going to be the same ever. Like you say, this is a generational thing. I don't see how this is ever going to get fixed in the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, even for me as well. I mean, I'm mid 40s right now, but for the rest of my life, I'm always going to remember 2025. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
One of the things though that the point you made there about your friends, um, going down visiting your friends, was a really difficult consideration in selling.
Mhm,
We both, my partner and I we had a wonderful community down there. We'd been established for a long time,
mhm,
and I had more friends down there than I do at home.
mhm.
And it was a very, very difficult thing to leave them, and it was a real grieving process that was attached to it. It was a choice to leave, but it was a choice that we had to make. But boy, it was so difficult. And like now, just like when you grieve when you lose somebody, at Christmas time, the anniversaries, it stings every time an anniversary comes up, a birthday, Christmas, whatever.
Yeah,
We would have thanks. We would always go to somebody's house for Thanksgiving, U.S. Thanksgiving.
yeah.
In fact, I went to two different places on two different days down there, and we did a FaceTime call, and felt I felt like I was an outsider.
Right.
I
Well,
felt
are
really.
your friends in Arizona? Are they United or U.S. citizens, or are they also Canadians that are flying down?
There's both. We
Both.
have a lot
Okay.
of U.S. The group I'm talking about right now. We do the U.S. Thanksgiving with our
Mhm.
U.S. citizens. That's quite a
Got it.
crowd we had.
Do
There's a
do they
special group of
understand though?
people.
Do they understand why you're not going, or are
No,
they no?
no, they don't. And I've never explained it to them, and I didn't want to. Again, it's so sensitive. I didn't want to jeopardize any relationship I had with them.
Right.
So I told them the reason I was going is that some of the things that the exchange rate, like now is a good time to sell because the dollar is so low
Yep. Fair
that
enough.
so I was going to make 15% on exchange rate alone based on the amount of money I paid to buy the place,
Yeah.
and the price had on my little place had tripled.
Mhm.
And so I just said that, and I thought that the fixed costs are rising too much, and those are the excuses I use. And then I would say at the end, but there's more to it. There's the political stuff that's really disturbing, and
Mhm.
but I didn't tell them that the primary motivation was the political stuff and the concern for my safety crossing the border.
Yeah. It's interesting how some in the U.S. I mean, I think most that are watching my channel understand, but I also had this when I did an interview with R, one of my first interviews. He actually mentioned some of the same thing where the people around him really didn't understand, and they didn't understand what the big deal was, right? So,
No, they
um,
don't.
uh, yeah, not. I'll be honest. I'm not surprised that they
Mm,
don't understand, but
mm,
at the same time as well, I think us as Canadians, we know the reasons, and we sticking to
mm,
our values. So,
mm.
I want to move over to. I mean, you've been there since 2013, and obviously you're there every winter, and you spend a lot of money. I do want to kind of go into the economic side of what how much you spend, what you do at the restaurants, and or how much you spend at the restaurants, attractions, golf, and things like that. So, what is Arizona losing by you moving away?
Well, I'm not a high roller there, and they're losing about 30 grand from me.
Oh wow,
And
okay.
that's the place where we stay. It's managed by a homeowners association, an HOA,
Mhm.
and we pay a set fee to them, and it's pretty high, but they take care of everything. So they take care of heating and cooling. They take care of exterior. They take care of bug control and all that stuff. The gardens, the roads. They take care of all that stuff. So that's pretty high. So that's about 10 grand a year right there.
Yeah.
And then there's the day to day living of groceries, and we belong to a couple of wonderful institutions down there, museums, and galleries and stuff. And we were members down there and support the galleries, and that's gone. Dining out is gone. Traveling around and about, staying overnight, taking the drive up to the Grand Canyon, which is a fair ways away from where we are, but you go up there for 2 or 3 nights, and you're into 2 or 3 grand right off the bat. I had a car, and so I'm paying insurance, I'm paying housing tax. Yeah, it's a pretty big chunk of dough.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned 30,000. It adds up, right? I mean, for
Mhm,
you and your partner, 30,000,
mhm,
and then if you multiply that by how many thousands of people are not going to the U.S.,
mhm.
it does add
Yeah,
up very quickly. So,
yeah, and like I said, I'm not a big player in this. There are people who have way more stuff tied up and spend way more money than I do.
mhm.
So, but you're right. Like I mean, I know 20 Canadians down there. There's 600 grand if they're spending more than me. I
Yeah.
guarantee you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, one of the things I wanted to get your opinion on it because we hear a lot on the U.S. news reports, but I mean, we do see that, businesses are struggling and things like that. But hearing from you and the actual numbers and what you used to spend on, I mean, I think it gives the audience a more of an impact of, where your money was going when you were living there and what they're not
Mhm,
getting anymore. So I think for the
mhm.
audience, you just got to realize this is just one snowbird and you multiply that by thousands that are
Oh
not
yeah.
going anymore.
Yeah.
It is definitely making an impact in the US right now.
There's no question.
So I guess moving on and also in closing, I mean, you've sold your place, you're done with the US. What's the next step for you, or where's the next destination for you?
Well, like I said, I had always wanted to go to Spain, and we did that last year. And that we made that decision before we decided to sell. And we had a fantastic time in Spain, and it was wonderful, wonderful people. Went to the Costa del Sol,
Hmm.
sort of near Malaga, around Malaga and Gibraltar down that way. Friend of ours, they've been going there for a long time, and they knew the ropes, and they kind of showed us the pathway down there. And then we've developed a community very quickly down there, and that really helped not replace, but help accept the damage, the losses of our great friends in the U.S. That we
Hmm.
have a different community to travel to.
Yeah.
So Spain is where we're going. The restaurants there are about the same price as U.S. restaurants, Canadian restaurants in Toronto.
Hmm.
It's about the same. It's not inexpensive. But what is not expensive is groceries. Groceries are about a third of what we're paying in the United States.
Hmm.
Uh, and Canada, we're paying a third more in U.S. Groceries based on the exchange rate alone. So
Yeah.
you $1.99 for an apple, or a pound of apples or whatever. Here is $1.99 down there, but it's not $1.99. It's $1.99 plus plus plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's that overage there, and then Spain is in euros, and it's really easy to figure out how inexpensive food, and especially wine is in Spain. It's
Right. Well, the
just
groceries are healthier too. So
they're very
yeah.
the food is absolutely fantastic. I don't know what they do to their bread in Spain, but man, it's some of the best bread I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And the vegetables are fresh, and it's the food's fantastic. So that's been an important part of what we do. And then there's just the remarkable history of the Spanish people, and
Mhm.
it's interesting to read about them and their bout with fascism,
Yeah.
in the 20th century with Francisco Franco, and how the country just devolved into this fascist state, and now it's back. So it's really young days, because in 19 that he only died in the late 70s. So I
Mhm.
mean, that's only 40 years ago, 50 years ago,
Mhm.
and they're a new country 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to seeing what's going on there,
Mhm.
and seeing how they manage things.
Well,
And
it's
like I said,
also Yeah, and I think it's also more for peace of mind as well, right? So I mean,
oh, absolutely.
if you
Yeah.
continue in the US, there's always going to be this thing in your back of your mind. But
Yeah.
going to a new country for your winters that really doesn't have the unrest that's going on in the US right now. I think peace of mind is the most valuable thing. I mean, if I was in your shoes,
Yeah.
it would be the peace of mind for me. So
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like Spain might be your new destination for the winter, right?
It is for the time being. Yeah. A buddy of mine's been going to Portugal as long as I've been going to Spain, so he knows the ropes there. That might be another place to go. And the United States is just not on the radar at all.
Yeah. Well, this has been very helpful. I mean, like I said, I mean, I've wanted to get opinion from a snowbird on my channel, and that way it kind of shows the facts from an actual snowbird versus just hearing what the US or even Canadian media states, right? So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for sharing your story. Before we end the call, is there anything else that you wanted to mention or let the audience know?
No, that's great. I really enjoy your channel, and I enjoy Klaus Kellerman's channel and Charlie Angus and House of L. But it's the best news that the most reliable news that I can find on the internet. I certainly can't trust mainstream media, well, CBC somewhat, but certainly not
Yeah,
American media. So, well, I thank you for stepping into that gap. You and those guys. It's really great that you can do that.
I appreciate it. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, my channel started because I really hated the US media not stating the 51st rhetoric, right? So that's really
Yeah.
how my channel started. And I decided one
Yeah.
day, hey, I'm going to upload a video and see what happens, right? So,
Yeah. Really appreciate it.
oh, thank you very much. And, I appreciate you sharing your story as well. And I do hope that your story does give some snowbirds who may have been on the fence, an idea that, hey, maybe it might be time to sell, right? Because you did bring up a really good point is that whatever the capital gains tax percentage is right now, that could change overnight. And there's
Overnight.
nothing you can do about it, right? So I,
No.
I didn't think about that. And, with all the executive orders that Trump is throwing out, you
Mhm.
just never know if the next morning it'll be like, foreigners, you got to pay 100% now, right? And
Oh. Yeah.
for any snowboarders thinking of selling, you might be caught with your tail between your legs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I would consider it wise to not have any real estate assets in the United States right now if you don't have to. If you're
yeah,
Canadian, wouldn't do
for
it.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, thank you very much, Mr. D, and I will definitely keep in touch with you. I want to hear how keep in touch with me. I want to hear how Spain goes for you, and I think maybe we could do like a follow up video later once you've all settled down and completely free from. Actually, you're completely free from the U.S. right now. You already sold and you're not going
I
anymore,
am.
right?
Yeah. I'm
Nice,
free and clear. Yeah.
nice. Good to hear. Good to
Yeah.
hear. So
Doing
yeah,
good.
let's keep in touch. And once you're, if you do settle in on a more permanent basis in Spain or wherever it is, let me know, and I'd be happy to do a follow up video with you.
Will do. Thanks very much, GTL. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, and thank you for supporting my channel as well.
Right. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.